Hello everyone, myself Dr. Shubh Arora, Assistant Professor, Department of Commerce from GIMS Greater Noida. Once again, I welcome you all back to the lecture series of the subject Marketing Management. Currently, we are on the 4th unit and today is the 7th lecture. Today's topics are personal selling process, features of personal selling, and the difference between transactional selling and relationship selling. So first let's start with personal selling process. As you can see, there are various steps in the personal selling process. You can see the flow chart. So let's first discuss it diagrammatically and then we'll discuss in detail all the points one by one. So very first step in personal selling is that the sales force here has to identify the potential customer, that is prospecting and qualifying. So identifying the prospect, that is first doing some kind of study and identifying what would be the suitable and potential customers for the product or service which I am going to sell in the market. Then the second step is pre-approach. After identifying or preparing a list of customers, in the second stage, the seller or the sales force has to identify and find out the details or go and do some kind of detailed analysis of the customer. Then the next step is approaching, that is approaching the customer, making a customer and making a relationship between the seller and buyer. That means now you are at the stage when you go and talk to the customer or approach or hit the customer. Then comes the fourth stage, that is presentation and demonstration. When you are in the presentation and demonstration stage, here you will start explaining the product or service which your firm is selling. So every detail you will provide to the customer in this stage. You will give some kind of presentations, you will tell the benefits, the add-on features, right? So what all detail you have related to the product you are going to tell to the customer in this stage by presenting and giving some kind of demos. Next is handling objections. Now after you have given the presentation and demonstration, customer might have some questions, some queries, some issues, some concerns, right, which the customer would like to ask you. So you need to overcome and answer all the customer objections successfully. Then only as a salesperson you will be able to convince the customer to purchase the product. So after handling the objections, if you have handled them positively and carefully, then the customer will be ready to purchase the product or buy from you. So here comes the closing the sale, right? So customer asks you for an order or spends money and makes an order of your product. Then after the customer have purchased the product, next is follow up. That is, you need to find out that after purchasing whether the customer is happy or facing some problems, some issues, some concerns. So you have to be present there, that is the after sale services, for taking follow up, and if any issues are there you need to resolve them ASAP. Right, so this is in a nutshell which I have tried to explain you. You can see the detail of all these personal selling process one by one. So when we are talking about prospecting, the first step here, the salesperson will make a list of all the potential customers, and that list of customers are called as prospects or prospecting, right? So how this salesperson will make a list of the prospects? By finding out some details, or some people who have tried to contact your company, so finding out the names of customers from the company records. Then some kind of, if you have as a customer have tried to find out some information, or you have put some information requests through different ads, right? So through that, then if through telephones, through trade association directories, current and previous customers, right, through friends, through newspapers. So through all these factors, the data can be collected about the customers and a list of customers can be prepared. Then we talk about the preparing part. After preparing, the salesperson would try to approach the potential buyer, right? So in the second stage, the list of customers have been, in the first stage list of customers has been made. In the second stage, here a detailed analysis of the customers will be prepared. In the third stage, the salesperson will approach and present, right? So hitting the customer, right, actually beginning the communication process with the customer, right? And beginning the communication process means explaining the customer all the information which you are trying to give through your presentation and demonstration, right? So after that, overcoming the objections, that is, after you have given the presentation and demonstration, you should have the skills and ability as a salesperson, as a sales force, to receive and deal with all the issues or objections or queries of the customer and solving them positively, right? Then comes the closing the sales. Lot of sales, the salesperson might not direct tell the customer to purchase the product, right? But that will be a mistake. So from time to time, when you are giving demonstration, when you are in the communication process with the customers, you need to tell your customers that you should buy this product and this will be beneficial to you in this way. After that is the follow-up. Since you have closed the sales, now comes the follow-up stage, where you need to find out and see whether your customer is satisfied. You need to take follow-ups from time to time. You need to see whether the product is being delivered to the customer on time, whether the customer is using. If the customer is facing some problem, then what are those problems, how those problems can be resolved, right? What all add-on benefits you can give to the customer. So all this comes in the follow-up part, or the after sales part. Now we come to is features of personal selling. When we talk about features of personal selling, the very first thing is face-to-face interaction. In personal selling, there is a face-to-face interaction between the seller and the buyer, because here the seller tries to understand the needs of the customer and try to match the product according to the customer needs, right? So through this feature, the salesman tries to persuade or convince the customers for buying a particular product, and also tries to build a good customer relationship. Then we come to the second feature of personal selling, that is two-way dialogue. When we talk about two-way dialogue, that is two-way communication. There is a communication between from both the sides, that is, seller is trying to demonstrate or persuade the customer, and in return the customer or the buyer will also say something or respond or put up some queries, some kind of objections, and for those objections and queries, again the seller has to come up with appropriate or probable solutions to the customer. So this way personal selling becomes a two-way dialogue or a two-way communication process. Then third is immediate feedback. In this, the seller gets immediate feedback from the customer, and it is very necessary, because then only seller will be able to know that whether the customer is being influenced or not, whether the seller is able to convince the customer positively or no, right? So therefore immediate feedback is retrieved and is required. Then fourth is art of persuasion. Now what does this art of persuasion means? Art of persuasion means art of convincing the customer, right? Trying to persuade the customer to purchase or buy the product and winning the confidence of the customer, right? Fifth feature of personal selling is flexibility. It means that the nature of product will be varied. Personal selling will also depend upon the customer's preferences. So the salesperson has to identify that what kind of skills or what kind of flexibility that person has to give to the customer depending upon the customer needs, customer preferences, nature of the customer, right? So personal selling styles will differ from situation to situation and from product to product. For example, personal selling techniques used by a salesperson for selling an industrial product will be totally different in comparison to for selling an FMCG product, right? Then we come to the next topic, that is transactional selling versus relationship selling. These two selling concepts are different. When we talk about transactional selling, as the name is telling you, that transactional selling is totally meant that when the sale or the promotion for the product is done just to win the sale. That means just to sell the product and earn money. So basically getting a transaction done. That kind of selling is called as transaction selling, right? And this kind of selling is only for a short period of time. That is, here you are not focusing for winning the confidence of the customer. Here you are just focusing how sale can be done, how a transaction can be done. You can sell the product and earn money. Whereas, on the contrary, when we talk about relationship selling is totally a focused on building long-term relations with the customers. That is, trying to identify what are the needs, preferences, wants, expectations of the customer, and then based on that analysis of needs and wants, trying to provide the customer a product or service so that a good relationship can be built for a longer period of time. So transactional selling is for short term and relationship selling is for focusing on long term customer relationships. Here you can again see in detail what do we mean by transactional selling. It's all about getting short term solutions. Here the sales representative is concerned with promoting just to sell the product. Emphasis is not on customer needs, right? This kind of strategy is also called as traditional selling, just focusing on a single transaction sale, right? When we talk about relationship selling, it is all about building long-term relationships. Here the sales representative gets to know and identify what are the needs and wants of the customers, right? And then trying to do a sale. After identifying the needs and wants and preferences, trying to focus on how to increase the sales. So the knowledge and application of relationship marketing here is for achieving customer satisfaction, customer loyalty, retaining the customer, that is customer retention, and customer acquisition, that is how you can acquire the customer for a longer period of time. So basically how you can win the customer, right? Here I have tried to quote again a difference between transactional and relationship selling. So let's discuss all the points one by one. When we talk about the first difference, that is the objective of transactional selling is getting orders or increasing the sales, enhancing the sales. When we talk about objective of relationship selling, it is how to become a preferred seller in the eyes of the customer. Then focus of transactional selling is giving a presentation and closing the sale. That means giving a presentation and convincing the customer to purchase the product immediately. Whereas the focus of relationship selling is building trust and CRM, customer relationship management, right? Then third is the customer type for transactional selling is most of the customers with low profit potential, and in relationship selling the type of customer is very few customers with high profit potential. Then in transactional selling the relationship length is short term. That means the sale is done, you are not able to win the customer for a longer period of time or for future. whereas the relationship length in relationship selling is for longer period of time, that is long term. Then the sales team in transaction selling may include junior level salespeople, whereas the sales team for relationship selling would include a mixture of senior level and medium level salespeople. Then transactional selling efforts are low to medium, and in relationship selling, since the focus is on winning the customers for a longer period of time for future, so here the selling efforts are very high using diverse or different functions. Then pricing strategy in transactional selling is competitive, lowest price. The organization or the salesperson might offer lowest price also just to get the sales done in transactional selling, whereas the pricing strategy used in relationship selling is mutually acceptable prices for profits between seller and buyer. So that's all for today's lecture. We'll be continuing with the next topics of this 4th unit lecture in the following class. Thank you and take care.